morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. This is the East Central and South Africa Excel Community Group. And we are having our webinar today on 17th. And as usual, the webinar is being by Crisp Excel Training and Consulting. We are corporate and individual trainers on advanced Excel, HR analytics, project management, and Office 365 platform. These are partners in Kenya and globally, Microsoft. Our trainer today is John Maina. John Maina is a taxation expert and Microsoft trainer. Area of expertise is business analytics, tax consultation, and Excel training. I'll send you his social media handle so that you can follow him. He has a very good YouTube video where he shares his expertise, and also on LinkedIn. And also, if you need tax consultation, you can visit his company, Sapema Consultants. Our topic for today is data validation. So I'll stop sharing. Welcome, John. John, are you there?
Yes, I'm there. You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Thank you very much for that introduction. As Crispo, you have said for sure, my name is John Maina. I'm a certified public accountant, and also I'm an Excel trainer. So I'll start today's presentation on data validation. And so I've been working on, and actually I've been training Excel for the last 7 years, started in 2018. So, and today we are going to start by learning about data validation. So Crispo, you can see my screen now?
Yes, you can see your screen.
Okay, thank you very much for that. As I was explaining, I think I was talking and you could not get because my mic was muted. But my mode of presentation is normally not going through the slides. I normally like to introduce a topic and then we dive in and as we learn. But I'll tell you about a little bit about data validation. So data validation is a feature in Microsoft Excel, which is normally used to control what a user enters maybe in an Excel. You find many companies, they normally work with data, and they work with share files where you find an input of a particular department will be used as an output of maybe from a different department. So at times it reaches a point where you need to control what data is put or maybe is entered in a given cell. So it normally allows you to specify, even dictate the rules that are going to be entered in given things. And also sometimes if maybe the user enters wrong data, it can display a message telling the person that this cell is supposed to have this kind of data. So I want to start with, and you can see my screen. So I want to start with simple data validation. And in this case, we are going to start with one way of having a data validation is coming up with a drop-down list where the customers can be able to choose and select what you want to put in a cell. So here I have my data. I want to put like a list of departments. Say there's a company where you want the user to select a given department. So if I have my department here, assuming I have something, I have finance, marketing, human resource. So I have these departments here where I want the user to select. Once a user clicks here, you select a department and then you have that drop-down list. So we normally start by, there are many ways of doing that. You come to this cell and then you go to data and then you come here to data validation. There's this data validation. At the moment in this cell, you can input any value. So if you click this drop-down list here, you can select from the list. And now the source that you have here, The first method of doing that, you can write this what you want to be on the that drop-down list here. Assuming I have HR, you put a comma. I have finance, you still put a comma. Let's say I have marketing. So if you click OK, you're going to find that here you have a drop-down list with all these departments. And from this department, you can be able to select what you want. So I have marketing. So if a user tries to write something which is not in the drop-down list, you'll get this error message telling you that the value does not match the validation restriction defined for this cell. So you can click escape, and then it will put whatever data that was there on the drop-down list. So this is one way of controlling what the users enters in a cell. Another way of doing this, if I undo that, another way of doing that, instead of you writing those departments, you can have those departments written somewhere, and then you can just pick from that. And how I'm going to do that is I'll have maybe another column here with all my departments. So if you have these departments here, if you come to these, assuming I copy my department and then I paste them here. So if I want to have this department in the drop-down list, instead of writing them on the reference pointer, I'll come to where I want to have my validation, and then I'll go to data validation, and then from any value I'll select my list. And now from the source, I'm going to select this department here, and then I press enter. So you'll find from this list, all these departments will be listed on that drop-down list, and then the user can be able to pick any from the drop-down list, and then by that will be have control what the user wants to put. Because for sure, even if you wanted users to write something there, even if it is procurement, there are some who are not going to write it correctly, some are going to put spelling mistakes. So with a drop-down list, you can be able to control what the users enters in a given cell. Also, there's another challenge with this one. If right now I want to add another department here, assuming I wanted to add a department like which one? Finance, let's say I want to add analytics as a department. So you'll find if you come and add this analytic down here, it will not appear on your drop-down list, because remember, when I was selecting this was limited. How we normally go around that is having these in an official Excel table. So once we have it in an official Excel table, we can be able now to keep on adding that, and then it will be able to help us even overcome that challenge where you find you want to insert something and then it's not working. So, and in our case here, I'll come and create a department tab here, and then I'll convert that into official Excel table. We normally convert that just by clicking Control T, and then you have an official Excel table. If you add another department there, first of all, I'll show you how you're going to select that from the Excel table. I'll come to data. From this data, I'll have to undo whatever I have here so that I can be able to select this from an Excel table. So this is where I want to have my restriction of the drop-down list. I'll go to data tab, and then I go to data validation. From these, I can, instead of any value, I'll put a list. And then now this is my source. I have another tab here, department, and all my departments are listed in an official Excel table. I'll select that, and then you press OK. So you'll find all those departments will be listed here, and then you can be able to pick from a drop-down list. And if tomorrow there's another department in the organization and you want to add it, you'll come here and add that department. Let's say there's a new department called analytics. Automatically you added it there. If you go to your drop-down list and select, you'll be able to find it down there. And by default, oh, sorry. If you come to here, oh, sorry, I don't think I put this as an official Excel table because it's not picking. Control T. Okay. It's supposed to pick automatic. I don't know why it's not picking. So let me convert this to an official Excel table. And then I say my table has header. So automatically I have those ones. If I come here, let me delete these ones that I had here. And then I go to data. I go to data validation, and then I say I want a list. And then from this list, my source will be this table here. If you click OK, you find you have your drop-down list here with all the departments. If tomorrow you add another department here, down here, analytics, if you go to your drop-down list, you're supposed to find that new department. You see, you can see down, it is down here. So once you working with an Excel table normally help us, instead of keep on manually adding this data, you can be able to find all your departments. So remember, I've only added that drop-down list in this single cell here. So if I wanted to copy all that to these other cells, the only thing I'll do, I'll copy this. I'm copying by clicking Control C. And then you select the whole region where you want to put the restrictions. And then you paste the special. From the paste special, you paste validation, and then you press OK. And now you'll find that all these areas will have those drop-down lists, and then you can be able now, the user can be able now to pick from the list that they want instead of putting data or entering data manually. So that is one way of validating a sheet, so that you can be able to have have control of what the user enters in a cell. So if we continue and say, let's say this is the department. Now, if a user wants to put something, they'll have to select the department from that drop-down list. Assuming there's a project and you want to specify the start date, and let's say the start date has to be any day, which is must be a future date. A future date means like if today, it can't be today date, it can be either tomorrow or any other day. So if you want to do that, still we'll come to this cell, and then you go to the data tab. From this data tab, you go to data validation. And then apart from any list, any value, you select now date. And then it will ask you for the start date, but I don't want the date in between. I want the date to be greater than, and I want that day, it will ask you the start date, which now you want it to be greater than. In Excel, there's a function called today. Today normally returns today's date. So if you say you want your date to be greater than, if you know you write here today, and since it's a function you close it with brackets. Today normally doesn't have any arguments. So if you press OK, you'll find that now this cell has a data validation, and if we try to input today's date is on 17th of February 2024. Excel will give you an error message pop-up. It will tell you that the value entered does not match the data validation restrictions. Since we have restricted that cell, that any data that the user enters must be greater than today's date. So if I press escape and then I write tomorrow's data, tomorrow will be on 18th of February 2024, you'll find that date will be accepted. So still, you can be able to predict or maybe use the data validation features to be able to now dictate the kind of data that the user can enter in a given cell. Like now in this project start day, they not enter any other data apart from the date, feature date. Still, as you have done for the departments, if you want to now to copy the validation to these other cells, you come here and then you click copy, and then you select the region where you want to have your validation. Then you go to paste special. Okay, going to paste special, you normally go to home, and then there's this paste here. Then you click paste special. You'll have this paste special pop-up. and then you choose validation. You only want to paste validation, you don't want to paste values. So if you say okay, you'll find now all these other cells have that features where if any user wants to put something, it has to be a feature date. Another thing that I'm going to show you is the project number. So assuming this project number, you want it to be any number. First of all, it must be 4 digits, and it has to start from 1,000 maybe to 3,000. So you still come there, and then you go to data. You go to data validation, and then you choose, now this is the, it has to be first of all a whole number, and from the data it has to be between 1,000, you write there 1,000, and the maximum has to be 3,000. So if you select that, and then you press OK, you'll find that if tomorrow I input the data here like 4,000, it will not accept, it will give me this error message saying that the value does not match the data validation restrictions, because we have specified the range that we want there. But if you put 1,000, it will be accepted. If you put 1,500, it will still be accepted. Another way of doing that still, as you have done for the others, you can copy that and then it will be able to reflect to the rest. When you come to the company code, so the company code that the user enters, you want to put a restriction that it must be 5 digits. Still, as you have done that, you go to data validation. Once you have this data validation, now we want to select the length. So the length that you are going to pick here, we are going to pick a length that must be equal. It has to be equals to 5. So if you press OK, if tomorrow I come and I put here, let's say RE1, 2, 3, 4, those are 6 digits, it will not enter, it will not accept. But if I put RE1, 2, 3, those are 5 digits, they'll be accepted. So still, as you have done for the rest, you can be able to copy down the validations and then they will apply to all these other cells. And after I've done this, now I'm restricting what the user has to enter in these cells. And also now I want the user maybe to give me a short descriptions. But you know, some people, when you tell them to comment, they normally give you only good, very good. So you may want them to give a little bit of description. So let's say you want them to say how the project was or maybe anything. So, and you want maybe at least the maximum character they can write, let's say it's 20. So you can go to data validation and then you open the validation tool. And then instead of these, you go to, now I want to see the text length. So the text length, I can say it has to be equal to 20 characters still. So if you put that, so you'll find whatever the user is going to insert here, if you just come and say very good, it will not work because you have to give a little bit of description. Say the project was good and I'd like to attend the next seminar. The seminar was good and I wish to attend the next. So if you just say that, if you say that and then you press OK, I think even that's still less. Or maybe if I can just copy something from the internet for the interest of time. So if you come maybe and you paste that, you'll find since it's okay, just a moment. I think okay. I thought I should have said that it has to be greater than 20 characters, not equal. So you go to data validation and then from the text length, it has to be greater than, and then I say 20 characters. So the user can decide even to put more words. So if I press OK, you find now that one will be accepted because it is greater than 20 characters. But if you just say very good, you find that will not be accepted. So also in these, whenever you are doing this an error pop-up message. I hope you can also see it. Like now this one is telling me this value does not match the data validation restriction. If I want to customize that, maybe I want to have a good maybe message that the user will be able to understand. I have the ability to do that. Like for this one, you have to select from a drop-down list. So if you go to data and then you go to data validation, you can be able to save the input message that you have, that the user will have here. So assuming I want just to say select from the drop-down list. So if you press OK, so if a user comes, if you pop up in this, if you come here and then you try to put your message, you'll find an error. And oh, sorry, I don't think that one pick. So if you come here and then you go to data validation, and then okay, I just put it. I just entered the title, but I did not enter the input message that you show here. This will be please select from the list. So if you say okay, now you'll find even if you hover on that list, on that cell, you'll find that message. Please select from the list. And also another way of doing that now is also determining the error message. So determining the error message is if now the user enters the wrong message, maybe the user, let's say the user did not select from the drop-down list, you can be able to put the message here. And let's say you can just say wrong entry. So if you press OK, you'll find if tomorrow somebody comes and writes something here, and then he has not selected from the drop-down list, so the error message that he will give you here, it is wrong entry, means that this person has not entered the data as it's needed. So that is how you can be able to customize and also try to guide the users on what values they should enter in the Excel sheet. So that we can be able now to have that control of what the users enters, so that maybe people can follow the rules. Because actually when you are working, especially many companies, when they share data, you find many people normally put their own things, and then you find it ends up distorting the whole project. So to save on time and also to enable easy data collection, so you can use data validation features in Excel to be able to control what values are entered in an Excel sheet. So to take this further, that was just the introduction bit of it. There's also another way we can customize this, because as you have seen, if you go to data validation from this validation tool here, we are selecting, we have used all these, but sometimes you can be able also to customize, because you see now at times you don't need just to deal with decimal whole numbers or maybe text length. Sometimes you need to customize, like in this case, when we have a customer, when we have the company code here, we wanted that code, maybe let's say we want to define that the code that the customer puts here, this code has to be, let's say the first two characters has to be letters, maybe followed by numbers. So that if maybe somebody doesn't do that, then you find it has an error. So that is a little bit more advanced when it comes to data validation. And maybe in the interest of time, still keep noting all your questions and for the basic parts. But let's try to see how we can be able to customize the validation. And I have some data here that I was working with. Maybe I can delete these ones. So assuming now I have this information here, where I need to put some restrictions here on what values the customers will enter, so that I can be able to have control and specify the rules that I want. I'm supposed to put the company code here, and now this company code doesn't just have to be any other number. It has to have one letter as and four numbers. So assuming assuming let's say we have R 1, 2, 3, 4, that one will be accepted. But if you just come and put just input numbers, they will not be accepted. So the rule that we want for the company code is to have the first letter has the first digit has to be a number, followed has to be a letter followed by the numbers. So this is a little bit advanced, but I'll just be breaking it down slowly as we do it, so that you can be able to be clear and easy. So the first thing that I'll ask myself, when you say one number and 4 digits, first of all, the total length of that code has to be 5. So I'll come here and say, first of all, I need to check the length. And I've said the length of what is put here. Maybe I can start by working with a dummy data. Let's say I just have R, or maybe let's say J, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the first character has to be, first of all, the length of the text input there has to be 5. So when we are learning Excel, we normally have some text functions, and these text functions, we are going to use them here a lot. Still in this presentation, I know Crispo has prepared something on text length, and has prepared something on text functions, and but there's some that already we are going to use here. But if you still have some question on the functions, still we'll create another preview for that. So if I want to check the length of characters in a given cell, there's a text function in Excel that is called len. So len is a function that normally has one argument, and the argument is just the text. So if you come here and you place this argument, you select that, it will tell you that is number 5, meaning in this cell you have 5 characters. If you add another one, it is automatic, it goes to 6. If you delete, it will be automatic because it's dynamic. So here I'm going to use these text functions so that I can be able to do this, so that okay. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Yes. So here I have this function, the length function. So it is telling me what is the length of the what is the length of the character that I have in this cell. So the first thing, if I want to have an argument with one letter, maybe I have a validation rule where the first one has to be a letter and the next 4 has to be numbers. So the first thing, I'll have 5 characters in total. So I need to check whatever has been inputted in this cell, is it equal to 5? So that will be my first check. So assuming I return that to 5, so if I come to this cell, I'll say len this one, and then say equals to 5. So also, apart from also the text function, I'm going to use more of the logical functions. Logical functions in Excel, these are functions that always return true or false. If this is where you want to compare 2 things in Excel. So if right now I'm coming to this function here and I'm saying, I'm checking the length of A4. A4 is the cell that is the characters that have been put in cell A, cell A4. I'm checking if that is equals to 5. If for sure that is equals to 5, it will give me true. But assuming I remove this 4 here, then I press enter, it will tell me that is false, because it is checking, it's trying to count the numbers of character in cell A4, and it's trying to check if that is 5, then it will tell me that is false. So that is the first one. If I return my 4 there, you'll find now it will say true, because the total characters here there are 5. Another thing that I need to check, I also need to check the last 4 characters are numbers. So if I come here, so I want to check, so the first one was a letter, but now the next 4 characters are supposed to be numbers. So I need also to use a function in Excel that will first of all help me to check if those are numbers. So I'll come here. There's also another text function in Excel. It's called write. So write normally returns specific numbers of characters from the end of a string. So from this string, from my right, I'll select from this text. I want you to give me the 4 characters from the right. So if you select that, you see it will return for you 1, 2, 3, 4. So, but now that has helped me to pick those numbers. But I want to check, are those characters numbers? Because also in Excel, sometimes you may find a number. When you look at it with bare eyes, you'll see it's a number. Like right now here, I can see 1, 2, 3, 4. I may look at it as numbers, but in Excel, it's reading as a string because it is in between the quotations marks. So I'll have to check. I have to use another function in Excel, and here I'm going to use a logical function that normally check if something is a number. So there's a function in Excel that I'm going to use. From this right, there's another function that is called if number. So this is number. So I'll start by is number, and then I get the right of these, pick the first characters, and then check if that is number. So if you look at here, it will tell me false. And for sure, this is telling me false because when it looks for the first 4 numbers from the right, remember in Excel, they are reading as values because I'm picking these numbers as formulas. So they have those quotation mark. So I have to convert these into a number. And when you have text in Excel and you want to convert them into a number, there are various ways we normally do. You can come here and multiply. You multiply this one by 1. So if you do that, you'll find it will change to true. Because now the numbers are being multiplied by 1. I think this is to understand this more on how it multiplying by 1 bring it to true. This is just the logical function where of 1 and 0. So it's multiplying everything with 1, another one with 0, 1, 0, 0, and then it's adding all of them, and then it's trying to check if those are numbers for sure. Or maybe instead of doing multiplications by 1 to convert that into number, you can use another function in Excel. It's called value. So if I come here, I check its number, and then I put the value function. So if I put this value function here, then it will be able to come here from this cell, pick the 4 digits from the right, convert that into values. Now there are numbers, and then you check now if for sure that is number. So if you press OK, it will tell you that is true. Now, the last argument that we need to check here, we need to check if the first character is not a number. So we want to check, I'll come and put it here. I want to check if the first character is non-numeric. When you talk about non-numeric, it is not a number. So there are also 2 methods that I can use to try to see if that is a number or that is not a number. And the first one, actually, we can come here. Actually, we can use this. We can use this function, but right now here we can use, let's say, left. If you come here and say equals, and then you say left, left is also another text function that normally returns a number of characters from the left of a string. So if you come here, and then I say from this text here, that is my first argument, you put a comma, and then it will ask you number character. So I want you to check from this text in A4 and return for me the first character. That one, it will tell me, it will give me J. And then from now that J, I want to confirm if that J is an numeric. The simple way of doing this, we can still check if this number, if this J, okay, you can say there is a function called isText. You can use isText. So if you say isText is trying to check if the value is a text. So if you close bracket and then you press OK, it will tell you it is true for sure. It has checked the first character from A4 and it has found that is a text. That is one way of trying to do that. You see, I'm using here a text function called isText. Another way of doing that, we can still check if is number. Because if it is not a number, it will not be a number. So if I come here and say, check if that is a number, and remember when I'm checking is a number, I have to put value. And then you press enter. It will give me false. Because it is checking, this one is not a value, is not a number. So if that is not a number, then it's giving me false. Then also coming to the logical functions, there's another function called note. So if you add note, note normally negates. If it is if it returns true, it's going to change it to false. Or if it returns false, it's going to change it to true. So if I come here, remember this my is number is returning to false. But now I'm putting a note now to change that because I want it to return true. So if you close the bracket and you press enter, you find it's going now to give you the truth. Now here, this is my condition that I want to apply here. Any data that the user enters, the first has to be a number. The first has to be a letter followed by 4 numbers. So I want to put that validation here. And now I want to make sure that when the user enters a number here, it has to ensure it has checked all these parameters. So I'm going to combine all this formula and have my final formula here. And having my final formula here, in Excel, we normally have these, I don't know, there's a clipboard here. If you click, you normally find a clipboard here. Any moment you copy something in Excel, it normally saves it inside the clipboard. A clipboard is like a short memory in Excel where it stores data before you can paste them. So if I want to combine all my answers, so if I come to this is the function that I've written here. If you click that and then you click Ctrl+C on your keyboard, you'll find that it has been copied here on the clipboard. You press escape to return back. You go to the second formula, you highlight all that, and then you click Ctrl+C to copy. Again, it will be pasted here on the clipboard. Click escape to leave that. Go to the fourth, and then click copy all that. Click Ctrl+C. You have all your formulas here that have been copied. Click escape to escape. Now I want to combine all this formula into a single formula so that I can be able to use to check everything. So when you come to logical functions, you normally have a logical function called and this AND is what is going to help me combine all these functions. So it will ask me for the first logical. I'll come to my clipboard and click that. It will enter, you put a comma. The second logical, you come to this, you click that, and then you put a comma, and then you go to the third logical, click that, and then now since I've complete, you just close the AND functions with a bracket, and then you press enter. So you find that this final formula here, now it is checking everything. Instead of you having one formula in different places, I've combined all these formulas, and for sure, if right now if I come here and I add something, you'll find even mine last formula will change because it is checking that one of the argument is false. You see like now, here 2 of the arguments are false. So if I come, maybe I remove 1, you find also 2 of the arguments are false, and my final answer becomes false. But if I add 6, everything is true, and my final answer is true. Now, this is what I'm going to put in my data validation, this last formula that I've combined, so that I can be able to check everything that is working correctly. So I'll come and copy the whole of that function. I'll click Ctrl+C to copy, and then I'll go to company. Now this is where I want to have my validation. Go to data validation, and then from here, instead of any list, you select custom. And now here, you paste your formula, the one that you have created, and then you press OK. So if you press OK, now, if you try now again to enter something that does not meet that specification, it will give you an error because it it is telling us the value does not match the data validation restrictions defined for these cells, because our restriction is the first character has to be a letter followed by 4 numbers. So if now I come and I put now the correct, you find that it is working. So that is how we can be able to use the advanced validation tool to keep on trying to specify, so that we can be able to have control on what a user enters in a cell, so that we'll be able to collect data easily, clean data easily, and also do our analysis easily. So that was one. I know it's a little bit tricky, especially if you are checking this for the first time, or maybe you have never used, but I know most of you have in one way or another have seen the data validation tools working. So we can also still continue. Maybe I'll do this one here. So we have another one here that we want to set a validation maybe criteria, so that we can be able to control the data that user enters and also specify the rules that we want to be entered. So assuming here we want to have 2 letters which are fixed. Assuming if they are TT, it has to be TT, and then followed by 4 numbers. So the data that the user enter, the first 2 has to be fixed. If like now in this case, if I'm putting JM, everything has to start with the JM. Assuming you are putting data, but everything has to start with the company initials followed by 4 numbers. So if you want to create that validation, still we can be able to start also by breaking it down, because if we break it down, it normally makes our work very easy. So the first thing, okay, actually I'll copy this on here. So the first thing that we want to check the length. If we say 2 letters and the other 4 has to be numbers, meaning the total character has to be 6. So we'll have to check our length here. So, and the length that we want to check here has to be 6. So I'll put a dummy data still to work with. Let me say JM 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'll use my length function. So I'll say length, it has 1 argument, and this argument is this one. But I want to check if that one is equals to 6. So if you press OK, the first thing we have checked, the data that the user has entered here has to have 6 characters. Now, the next one is it has to have the first 2 has to be fixed, or maybe before that we can say the last 4 has to be numbers. So we can still use this function that we have used here. We check if the last 4 characters from the right are numbers. So still we can be able to use this one to make it easier. So you come here, you say equals. Now from the right, this is the right function I'm using here. I'm checking this, and then I'm checking the last 4 characters from the right, and I want to check if that is number. So I'm going to combine this with its number function. And then still I have to have value. Now you know I am putting value here because the value will be able to check for me, help me to convert the text into a number. And then now I close I close the value function, and then I close the is number, and then I press enter. So it will be able to check for me if for sure those ones are numbers. So the other argument that we need to check if the first 2 characters are fixed, and so the first 2 characters are fixed. First of all, we need to check the function to give us the first 2 characters here. I'll check if these, first of all, I'll use the left function. And this left function, I want to get the first 2 characters from the left. It will give me JM. And I want to check if those first 2 characters are equals to, when you're writing a text in Excel, you normally put this quotation, are equal to JM. You close the bracket there. and then you press enter. You press enter. So these two characters have to be fixed. So if that evaluates to true, you find now I've checked all my conditions that I want to check. So I can come here and create my final final answer, because this final answer, I'll open my clipboard. So you remember I showed you how to open your clipboard. You normally go to home and then you click this clipboard. But actually, for people who have interacted with me, I normally like to use a lot of Excel keyboard shortcuts. So if you press Control and you press C, Control C 2 times, it will help you to open the clipboard. But you have to come to Option and activate this function here. You tick this one that is saying Show Office Clipboard when Control plus C is pressed twice. So that will help you to do a lot and save on time when you're working with big data. So now when I come here, I want to create my final formula. So I'll open my clipboard. I'm pressing Control and letter C twice. And once I've done that, I want to check now, combine all these functions here. So I'll come to these. I copy that formula. It will go to the clipboard. You press Escape to move. You go to the next one. You highlight everything. You press Control C. Click Escape to leave that. You go to the third one, and then you come here and you copy that. Control C, Escape to leave. Now you have all your formulas copied on the clipboard. You go to now where you want to input your final data, final formula, and I'm going to combine all these formulas using an AND function. You come and select AND. The first logical test is my length here. You just click it, it will enter there. You press a comma, you go to the second one, you choose the second formula here, you put a comma, you go to the third one and you put that function there, and then you close the bracket for the AND function, and then you press enter. So this is one formula that now has combined or is checking everything that you have here to see if they are evaluating to true. So this is the last formula that I'm going to copy and have it on my data validation customized. So I'll come to this cell here, and then you go to data, you go to data validation, and from the data validation you come to custom, and then from there you have to enter now, you have to enter now that formula that you have copied. You press Control V to paste, and then you click OK. So if you do that, now this cell has some validation, of which any data that the user enter, the first two has to be JM. They are fixed. So if right now I come here, I put TT, and then I put 1, 2, 3, 4. Although this one is meeting the length criteria and also is meeting the last 4 criteria, it is not meeting the first 2. So if I press OK, it will give me an error, because yes, for sure, if you check, the length are 6, the last 4 characters are numbers, but it is not meeting the third criteria which we are checking. And the third criteria that we are checking here is the first 2 has to be characters, has to be fixed JM. So if tomorrow now I come and I write JM and any other 4 numbers, you find it will accept, because the data entered there is now meeting the criteria or the specified rules that you have entered to work, to be able to see and work on that. So that is a small brief introduction on data validations. We normally have a lot of uses for data validation, and you find there are a lot of customers, those who have been filing Kenyan's returns. You know, we normally have the KRA Excel spreadsheet that has a lot of programming where if they want you to put a KRA PIN number, you cannot put your name or put any other thing. So they normally use a lot of data validation. And also there is an advanced aspect of this. I know when we get another time maybe to continue with this, we'll be able to keep on learning. For the drop-down list is a lot. When we came to the first presentation, here I just show you a simple drop-down list. Sometimes you normally have customized drop-down list There's something we normally call dependable drop-down list, where whatever you choose on a drop-down list depends on the other data that you chose from other sections. So there's a lot to do with that. And also maybe because I'm going to share this Excel spreadsheet, I'll also want those who will be interested to learn more about this. I'll leave the last one to be like an example for those who will be doing that. And also now here we want to have a validation criteria where the first two character has to be letters. And when I say letters, now here they're not fixed, they can be any letters, and the last four has to be numbers. So that one you can do as practice and also as you get to learn more about data validation. So I think at this moment, since we're almost done with the time for the hour, I'll welcome any questions or maybe clarification or maybe just a comment, any comment. Thank you.
Thank you, John. That was intense.
Okay.
First of all, let's look at the questions. There's a question from Raj. He asked, how do you create a searchable drop down? If you have like 1,000 items in your drop down, how do you create a searchable drop down?
Yes, so when you create okay, this will be a combination of many function crystal, and we can use a filter function.
Okay.
Where, and also for right now, when you have something like Office 365, we normally have those drop-down lists that you can create that are searchable, but
do you have personalized training?
Yes, we do offer the personalized training. If someone wants a training at the moment, we can be able to schedule a moment. We do it online, or sometimes if it's in Nairobi, still we can try and have a physical training. So yes, we do offer trainings.
So my question is, especially I see you're good in nesting functions. How did you get to learn all those functions, and how can somebody become that good in nesting functions and creating that complicated logic in Excel?
So actually, for first thing is it's interest. That's what I can say. Mine started from the interest. I used to see people creating complex functions, and then I really wanted to learn them. So if you are first of all interested in that, you'll be able to find that you learn a lot. And also we normally have the daily learning, especially I used to give myself a target like every day I have to learn something new in Excel. So I find that with the daily learning and trying to more interested or to try to learn and find things, that is what helped me to be able to learn these things and be able to be at where I am at the moment.